Shirley Anita St. Hill, born on November 30, 1924, in Brooklyn, New York, began her life at the crossroads of America's promise and its complex realities. Her early years in Brooklyn were marked by the bustling life of a city that was both a melting pot and a mirror of the nation's racial and economic divides. At the age of 3, Shirley was sent to live with her grandmother in Barbados. Her years on the island were formative, immersed in a British-style education system, which she later credited for her meticulous speech and writing. This period instilled in her a rigorous sense of discipline and a profound appreciation for her heritage that would fuel her future endeavors. The classrooms of Barbados were strict, yet nurturing, environments that emphasized traditional values of respect and hard work. Shirley thrived under the rigorous educational standards, developing an early love for argument and public speaking, skills that would become the bedrock of her political persona. Returning to Brooklyn at the age of 10, Shirley rejoined a society marked by rapid change and deep-seated inequalities. The transition was challenging, yet it sharpened her awareness of the social and racial injustices that pervaded her community, laying the groundwork for her lifelong commitment to social change. Shirley's academic journey continued at Brooklyn College, an institution that became a crucible for her budding political and social consciousness. Amidst the fervor of college debates and student government, she became a vocal advocate for civil rights and an outspoken supporter of anti-discrimination causes, shaping her early identity as a leader. At Brooklyn College, Shirley quickly distinguished herself as a leader among her peers. Her involvement in the Harriet Tubman Society, and later the NAACP, marked the beginning of her formal engagement with civil rights activism, laying a foundation that would inform her political strategies and goals. The era's giants of advocacy in politics, including Eleanor Roosevelt and Adam Clayton Powell Jr., were significant influences on Shirley. Their commitment to social justice and political action inspired her to envision a career where she could effect change from within the corridors of power. Upon graduating from Brooklyn College in 1946, Shirley faced the dual barriers of gender and race in her pursuit of a career. Undeterred, she chose to work as a teacher and later as a director of a childcare center, roles that nurtured her drive to serve and lead her community, foreshadowing her eventual entry into the political arena. During her time at Brooklyn College, Shirley Chisholm was not just a student but a burgeoning activist. As a member of the Harriet Tubman Society, she pushed for integration and fought against racial injustices, both on and off campus. Her college years were marked by a fervent commitment to change, setting the stage for a lifetime of advocacy. Chisholm's voice became a beacon for change during her college debates, where she eloquently argued against segregation and discrimination. These forums were not just academic for Shirley, they were a call to action. She used every platform available to her to speak on behalf of those who were marginalized and oppressed. Influenced by professors and local community leaders, Shirley absorbed lessons of leadership and resilience. Notable among her mentors was Louis Warzoff, a political science professor who encouraged her to pursue politics as a means to effectuate broader social change. His guidance was instrumental in shaping her path forward. Graduating with honors in 1946, Shirley's commencement was a proud moment that marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Armed with education and fueled by a passion for justice, she was poised to take her activism from the campus to the community, determined to make a tangible impact. Shirley began her professional career as a nursery school teacher and later as a director of 2 daycare centers. These roles were not merely occupational for Shirley, they were extensions of her advocacy, providing nurturing educational environments to children of working-class families in Brooklyn. Beyond the classroom, Shirley was a stalwart community advocate. She frequently spoke at workshops and seminars about the importance of early childhood education and the need for community involvement in schooling. Her advocacy helped to bridge gaps between different racial and economic groups within the community. Shirley's activism soon extended into the political arena. She joined local political clubs and quickly distinguished herself with her articulate speeches and uncompromising integrity. Her efforts were pivotal in gaining significant support for educational initiatives and social welfare programs in New York. Recognition for Shirley's work came both from the communities she served and from broader educational and political organizations. Each award and each word of appreciation bolstered her resolve and her visibility, propelling her from local activism to a position where she could effect change on a much larger scale. In 1964, Shirley Chisholm took her advocacy to a larger stage, winning a seat in the New York State Assembly. As a legislator, she was an outspoken advocate for the underprivileged, pushing for legislation that would benefit children, education, and social justice. Her eloquence and unyielding dedication quickly set her apart as a legislator who fought with conviction. During her tenure in the State Assembly, Shirley championed numerous pieces of legislation aimed at improving the lives of her constituents. Notable among these were bills to provide unemployment benefits for domestic workers, educational programs for disadvantaged students, and increased funding for day care services. Her legislative efforts were a testament to her commitment to social equity. Shirley knew the importance of being on the ground, listening to the people. She spent countless hours in her community, attending meetings, and engaging directly with her constituents. This hands-on approach not only informed her legislative agenda but also solidified her bond with the community, building a base of staunch supporters who admired her dedication and authenticity. Her impact as an assemblywoman was widely recognized, garnering attention from both the media and public. Newspaper articles often highlighted her tenacity and effectiveness, painting her as a rising star in New York politics. This positive media coverage helped to elevate her profile and set the stage for her next big challenge, the United States Congress. In 1968, Shirley Chisholm decided to take her fight for equality and justice to the national level by running for the United States Congress. Her campaign slogan, "Unbought and Unbossed," resonated with many who were tired of the usual politics. It wasn't just a campaign motto, it was a declaration of her independent approach to politics. Shirley's campaign strategy was revolutionary. She reached out to a coalition of women, African Americans, Puerto Ricans, and the youth, all of whom were often marginalized in the political process. Her message of inclusion and equality spoke directly to those who felt disenfranchised by the political system. On election night, the anticipation in Shirley's campaign headquarters was palpable. As the results came in, confirming her victory, cheers erupted. Shirley Chisholm had made history as the first African American woman elected to Congress, breaking barriers and setting a new precedent in American politics. Her victory made national headlines, heralding a new era in American politics. Across the country, people celebrated Shirley Chisholm's triumph as a victory not just for her, but for all who had been sidelined in the political discourse. Her win was a beacon of hope, inspiring a generation to believe that change was possible. In January 1969, Shirley Chisholm was sworn in as a United States Congresswoman, representing New York's 12th Congressional District. As the first African American woman in Congress, she faced the dual barriers of racism and sexism, but her resolve never wavered. She approached her new role with the same fierceness and dedication she had shown throughout her career in public service. From her first day in Congress, Shirley worked tirelessly to build alliances and break down the barriers that often isolated newcomers. Her charisma and sharp intellect quickly drew attention, though not always agreement, from her peers. She was often outspoken in committee meetings and debates, pushing her agenda with a blend of passion and reasoned argumentation. Shirley's early legislative efforts were aimed at improving the social welfare of her constituents and Americans at large. She advocated for increased federal funding to education, health care, and social services, challenging her colleagues to consider the plight of the less fortunate. Her advocacy often put her at odds with both her party and her opposition, yet she remained undeterred. In her private correspondences, Shirley revealed the loneliness and isolation she sometimes felt in Congress. Despite the outward confidence, she wrestled with the weight of her position and the slow pace of change. Yet, these writings also reflect her unyielding optimism and her belief in the power of persistent advocacy to create change. Education was a cornerstone of Shirley's legislative agenda. She believed strongly in the power of education to transform lives and fought for bills that aimed at expanding access to quality education for all children, regardless of their background. Her proposals often included measures to support students in impoverished communities, reflecting her deep commitment to social justice. Shirley was equally fervent in her support for labor rights. She stood with workers, advocating for fair wages, better working conditions, and the right to unionize. Her involvement in labor issues was not just political but personal, stemming from her understanding of the struggles faced by many of her constituents. Throughout her career in Congress, Shirley sponsored and supported numerous bills that sought to provide greater protections for workers and to improve the educational landscape of America. Each bill, each piece of legislation she championed, was a step toward fulfilling her vision of a more equitable society. Shirley's advocacy was met with a mixed reception. While many lauded her courage and clarity, others opposed her progressive views, highlighting the polarized environment of American politics during her tenure. Yet, the public response was overwhelmingly positive, bolstering her resolve to continue her fight. In 1972, Shirley Chisholm made the audacious decision to run for the highest office in the land, announcing her candidacy for the presidency of the United States. As the first African American woman to seek the nomination from a major party, Shirley shattered conventional norms and redefined what was possible for women and minorities in American politics. Her campaign was not just about winning the presidency, it was a bold statement against the entrenched political establishment. Throughout her campaign, Shirley traveled across the country, engaging with Americans from all walks of life. She spoke not to the power brokers, but to the people, addressing issues often ignored by mainstream politics. Her platform included an end to the Vietnam War, expanded social services, and civil rights for all, resonating with many who felt marginalized by the political system of the day. Chisholm's campaign faced numerous obstacles, including limited funding, skepticism from political pundits, and discrimination from within the political arena itself. Despite these challenges, she remained undeterred, utilizing her sharp intellect and fierce determination to challenge the status quo. Her appearances on national television and radio, though sometimes contentious, showcased her undeniable prowess and commitment to her ideals. The public reaction to Shirley's campaign was a mix of inspiration and disbelief. Thousands wrote letters expressing support, admiration, and gratitude, seeing in her a symbol of hope for a more inclusive and equitable America. These letters, filled with personal stories and words of encouragement, bolstered her resolve and underscored the significance of her candidacy. Shirley Chisholm's presidential run left an indelible mark on American politics. Though she did not win the nomination, her candidacy paved the way for future generations of women and minorities to seek and achieve higher office. Today, many politicians cite Shirley as a foundational influence, a trailblazer who made their journeys possible. Academically, Shirley's legacy is studied as a critical chapter in American political history. Universities and schools across the nation teach her campaign as a pivotal moment in the struggle for gender and racial equality in politics, inspiring new generations to engage in civic activism and public service. The spirit of Shirley's campaign lives on in contemporary social and political movements. Her unyielding advocacy for civil rights, women's rights, and economic justice continues to inspire activists and leaders fighting for change. Her influence is evident in the policies and platforms of those who continue her legacy of challenging the establishment. Across the United States, tributes to Shirley Chisholm stand as testaments to her enduring impact. From statues and murals to named public institutions, these memorials celebrate her life and legacy, serving as permanent reminders of her contributions to American society and her undying message of equality and justice for all. Shirley Chisholm's unwavering commitment to the marginalized was evident throughout her career. Whether speaking in Congress, visiting inner-city neighborhoods, or advocating on national platforms, she consistently voiced the concerns of those often left out of the political conversation. Her advocacy wasn't just political, it was personal, driven by her deep-seated belief in justice and equality for all. In Congress, Shirley's voice was a powerful force for change. She sponsored legislation aimed at improving the lives of the most vulnerable, including support for education, healthcare, and housing reforms. Her speeches often highlighted the systemic inequities faced by minorities and the poor, challenging her colleagues to act with conscience and urgency. Shirley Chisholm was not only a legislator but also a public intellectual and orator. Her ability to articulate complex social issues in relatable terms made her a sought-after speaker at universities, think tanks, and public rallies. Through these forums, she educated the public about the structural challenges facing society and mobilized support for transformative policies. The impact of Shirley's advocacy was profound. Letters from constituents and fellow activists filled her office, expressing gratitude and recounting personal stories of how her work had positively affected their lives. These testimonies were a testament to her effectiveness as a champion for the marginalized and a reminder of the human dimension of her legislative endeavors. Shirley Chisholm's legislative portfolio was both broad and deep, addressing a range of issues from educational reform to criminal justice. One of her notable legislative efforts was the bill to provide domestic workers with the right to a minimum wage, a groundbreaking move that sought to uplift a largely ignored segment of the workforce. Shirley was ahead of her time in many ways. Long before healthcare became a central topic of national discourse, she was advocating for universal healthcare coverage, arguing that it was a fundamental right, not a privilege. Her speeches on the subject were powerful, blending personal stories with hard data to illustrate the critical need for reform. Shirley's speeches often made headlines, not just for their content but for their fiery delivery and uncompromising honesty. Whether addressing racism, sexism, or economic inequality, she spoke with a clarity and force that resonated with many, though it also drew criticism from some quarters. Nevertheless, she remained steadfast, using her platform to challenge the status quo and inspire legislative action. Throughout her career, Shirley received numerous awards and recognitions for her legislative achievements and advocacy work. These accolades reflected not only her influence within political circles but also her impact on the lives of countless individuals who saw her as a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change. Shirley Chisholm was a pioneering force in the women's rights movement. Throughout the 1970s, she used her platform in Congress to advocate for women's equality, supporting legislation that promoted equal pay, reproductive rights, and anti-discrimination policies. Her speeches at national conventions galvanized support, framing women's rights as an integral part of the broader struggle for equality. Shirley was a staunch advocate for the Equal Rights Amendment, seeing it as essential for ensuring that women's rights were permanently recognized in the Constitution. Her advocacy was covered widely in the press, drawing both praise and ire, and highlighting her as a central figure in the debate over gender equality in America. In her fight for women's rights, Shirley did not stand alone. She worked alongside other feminist leaders, building alliances that crossed racial and ideological lines. These collaborations were pivotal, helping to steer the national conversation on feminism towards more inclusive and intersectional discussions. The impact of Shirley's advocacy was profound, resonating with women nationwide who saw in her a model of leadership and courage. The correspondence she received from women told stories of empowerment and action, reflecting the widespread influence of her work on the feminist movement and on individual lives. Long before the term intersectionality became a cornerstone of feminist theory, Shirley Chisholm was living it and speaking about it. She often addressed the double burden of discrimination faced by women of color, advocating for a feminism that addressed both race and gender inequalities. Her speeches at academic forums were groundbreaking, challenging scholars and activists to think more broadly about oppression and identity. The audiences at Shirley's talks were often captivated by her ability to articulate complex social dynamics. Her insights on intersectionality educated many on the compounded challenges faced by women of color, not just in the political arena but in everyday life. Her words spurred many to reevaluate their own approaches to fighting discrimination. Today, modern activists continue to build on Shirley's legacy, citing her speeches and writings as foundational texts in the struggle for a truly inclusive feminist movement. Her work is taught in gender studies courses and serves as a beacon for those advocating for an intersectional approach in all areas of social justice. Shirley Chisholm's contributions to social justice have been formally recognized with awards and honors bearing her name. These accolades not only commemorate her achievements but also signify the ongoing relevance of her work in inspiring new generations to continue the fight for equality at the intersections of race and gender. Throughout her career, Shirley Chisholm confronted a dual onslaught of racism and sexism, challenges that were compounded by her status as a public figure. In Congress and on the campaign trail, she faced discrimination that would have deterred a less resilient person. Despite these barriers, Shirley stood firm, using her eloquence and sharp wit to counter prejudice and promote her legislative agenda. The media often highlighted the discrimination Shirley faced, with some reports showcasing the derogatory remarks made by her colleagues and opponents. These instances were a stark reminder of the societal prejudices still rampant in America during the latter half of the 20th century. Yet, these experiences also galvanized her support base, drawing attention to her cause and rallying both women and people of color to her side. Shirley's public addresses were powerful tools in her fight against discrimination. Whether speaking at a civil rights rally or a feminist gathering, she articulated the interconnectedness of her struggles with those of other marginalized groups. Her speeches were not just calls for policy change. They were rallying cries for unity in the face of adversity. In her private writings, Shirley revealed a deep-seated resilience and a calculated approach to overcoming the obstacles she faced. These documents show her reflective side, contemplating the best strategies to advance her agenda while also offering support and advice to others facing similar discrimination. Recognizing the power of unity, Shirley sought to build alliances with other progressive legislators and activist groups. These partnerships were crucial, helping her to amplify her voice and extend her influence. By collaborating with other advocates for change, she was able to foster a coalition that transcended racial and gender lines, focusing instead on shared goals and mutual benefits. The alliances Shirley formed led to several legislative victories, including advances in civil rights, education reform, and health care. These successes were not just personal triumphs but victories for all who had supported her causes. They were tangible proof that collaborative efforts could result in meaningful change, even in the face of entrenched opposition. Shirley also dedicated herself to mentoring the next generation of leaders. She understood the importance of nurturing young talent, particularly among women and people of color. Her mentorship was invaluable, helping to prepare future leaders to continue the fight for justice and equality. Shirley's efforts were widely recognized, earning her accolades from various civil rights and feminist organizations. These honors were not just for her legislative achievements but also for her role as a pioneer who charted a path for others to follow. Her legacy as a barrier breaker and a unifying force in American politics continues to inspire those who strive to make a difference in the face of adversity. Shirley Chisholm's leadership style was both unique and inspiring. Known for her direct and forthright manner, she was not afraid to speak truth to power or to stand alone in her convictions. This fearless approach not only defined her tenure in Congress but also made her a formidable figure in American politics. Despite her reputation for being unyielding, Shirley possessed a remarkable ability to collaborate and negotiate when it served the greater good. Her tactical acumen was evident in the way she navigated the complexities of legislation and policy making, always with the goal of effecting substantial and meaningful change. Shirley's leadership extended beyond her immediate legislative duties. She was deeply committed to mentoring young leaders, particularly women and minorities, whom she encouraged to pursue careers in politics and public service. Her mentorship was driven by a genuine desire to cultivate a new generation of leaders who could carry forward the torch of progress and equality. The personal letters Shirley wrote to her mentor reveal the depth of her commitment to leadership development. These messages were not only instructive but also deeply motivational, infused with her personal experiences and insights. They remain a testament to her dedication to fostering leadership qualities in others. Shirley Chisholm's influence on contemporary politics is profound and far-reaching. Numerous political figures today credit her as a key inspiration for their involvement in public service. These leaders, from diverse backgrounds and ideologies, see Shirley not just as a historical figure but as a personal hero whose legacy continues to motivate their work. Educational institutions have also recognized Shirley's contributions by establishing scholarships and fellowships in her name. These programs aim to support students who embody her spirit of service and advocacy, ensuring that her legacy influences not only current leaders but also those yet to come. Shirley's words continue to resonate in public discourse. Her speeches, rich with insight and imbued with a call to action, are frequently quoted by those seeking to inspire change or make a point about justice and equality. Her eloquent expressions of democratic ideals and social justice are as relevant today as they were during her lifetime. Across the nation, memorials and statues dedicated to Shirley Chisholm serve as enduring reminders of her impact. These public tributes are not merely symbolic, they are focal points for community gatherings, discussions, and celebrations of her life. They stand as permanent markers of her significant role in shaping the course of American history. Shirley Chisholm's influence extended far beyond the shores of the United States. As a congresswoman, she was deeply involved in international affairs, advocating for human rights and social justice on a global scale. Her speeches at the United Nations and other international forums resonated with global audiences, highlighting her commitment to universal equality and the rights of all people. Shirley's legislative work included vigorous support for policies that aided developing nations and promoted international peace. She was a strong proponent of using American influence to foster development rather than conflict, arguing that the prosperity of the United States was inextricably linked to the prosperity of other nations. Chisholm's dialogues with global leaders and activists were grounded in a shared vision for a more just and equitable world. These interactions were not only diplomatic but deeply personal, as she sought to build a network of like-minded reformers to address global issues such as poverty, discrimination, and the marginalization of women and minorities. For her contributions to international advocacy and her unwavering commitment to human rights, Shirley was honored by numerous global institutions. These accolades were not merely ceremonial but a testament to her influence and the respect she garnered internationally. They affirmed her role as a global ambassador for peace and justice. Today, Shirley Chisholm's legacy is celebrated worldwide, inspiring conferences and symposia that explore her strategies for social change and her visionary political tactics. These events draw scholars, politicians, and activists who study her work and apply her ideas to contemporary global challenges. Shirley's name graces institutions and programs across the globe, from schools in Africa to community centers in Latin America. These institutions embody her ideals, serving as hubs for education and activism, and perpetuating her mission to empower the underrepresented. Grassroots movements around the world continue to draw inspiration from Shirley's speeches and writings. Her words spark actions and initiatives aimed at combating inequality and injustice. Shirley's influence is vividly alive in the banners and chants of those who march for their rights, echoing her calls for social justice and reform. The map of Shirley Chisholm's influence is dotted with landmarks that span continents. Each point is a beacon of her enduring impact, a reminder that her work transcends national boundaries and continues to inspire efforts toward a more equitable and just world. Shirley Chisholm remains a symbol of hope and a catalyst for change, not just in America but across the globe. Shirley Chisholm's life and career have been chronicled in numerous books and academic papers, exploring her multifaceted role as a politician, activist, and icon. Authors and scholars have dissected her strategies, her speeches, and her overall impact on society, highlighting her as a subject of study in gender studies, political science, and history courses across the globe. In film and television, Shirley Chisholm's pioneering spirit has been brought to life by various actresses who capture her determination and charisma. These portrayals have varied from factual recreations in documentaries to inspired roles in fictional settings, each contributing to the narrative of Shirley as a groundbreaking leader and an enduring symbol of change. At film festivals and literary events, panels discuss Shirley Chisholm's profound impact on media and popular culture. These discussions often highlight how her legacy continues to influence new generations of writers and filmmakers, inspiring them to tackle themes of race, gender, and politics through creative expression. Works about Shirley Chisholm have garnered numerous awards and accolades, recognizing the compelling nature of her story and its relevance to contemporary issues. These honors not only validate the importance of her legacy but also ensure that her story continues to resonate through the arts and letters. In communities across the United States, murals and public art installations celebrate Shirley Chisholm's enduring influence. These vibrant artworks not only beautify public spaces but also serve as focal points for community pride and historical reflection, making her story accessible to those who might not encounter it in traditional educational settings. Shirley Chisholm's name adorns community centers, educational programs, and public forums designed to empower marginalized groups. These initiatives perpetuate her commitment to education and social justice, embodying her spirit by fostering opportunities for civic engagement and leadership among underserved populations. At political rallies and social justice movements, Shirley's words and images are omnipresent, brandished on banners and placards, quoted in speeches. Her calls for equity and justice continue to inspire activists fighting for change, proving that her messages are as poignant and vital today as they were decades ago. Internationally, Shirley Chisholm is celebrated at conferences and symposia that address global inequality and women's leadership. These gatherings not only honor her contributions but also use her life as a case study for effective leadership and persistent advocacy in the face of adversity, encouraging new strategies and collaborations for tackling global challenges. Away from the political tumult and the public eye, Shirley Chisholm led a life filled with simple pleasures and deep personal relationships. Those close to her knew a Shirley that the public rarely saw, a woman who cherished quiet moments, enjoyed gardening, and was a passionate cook. These personal glimpses reveal a side of Shirley that grounded her amidst the pressures of public service. In her community, Shirley was more than a political figure. She was a neighbor, a friend, and a mentor. She participated actively in local events, often volunteering her time and resources. Her engagement was genuine and heartfelt, driven by her belief that change starts with personal action and local involvement. Shirley's personal writings provide a window into her inner world, filled with reflections on her journey, the challenges she faced, and her aspirations for the future. These writings are rich with wisdom and introspection, showcasing her philosophical side and her lifelong quest for knowledge and understanding. An avid traveler and collector, Shirley gathered artifacts and experiences from around the world, each telling a story of cultures explored and lessons learned. Her home was adorned with these mementos, each piece a testament to her curiosity and a reminder of the diverse world she engaged with both politically and personally. Shirley Chisholm's leadership was marked by a remarkable blend of tenacity and grace. Even in the face of adversity, she exhibited a stoic calm and a composed demeanor, traits that not only defined her as a leader but also endeared her to her supporters and colleagues alike. Her ability to remain poised under pressure was a key factor in her numerous political victories. A master orator, Shirley wielded words with precision and power. Her speeches were not just communications, they were performances that captivated and moved audiences. Her eloquence was a crucial tool in her leadership arsenal, allowing her to articulate her vision and rally people to her cause effectively. Shirley's diplomatic acumen was evident in her interactions with both allies and adversaries. She possessed a unique ability to bridge divides and forge consensus, even among those who initially opposed her. Her skills in negotiation and persuasion were critical in advancing her legislative agenda and in navigating the complex landscape of American politics. The accolades and tributes to Shirley Chisholm's leadership continue to accumulate, each acknowledging her formidable presence and her lasting impact on American politics. Testimonials from peers and those she mentored further illuminate the breadth of her influence, painting a picture of a leader who was not only respected but deeply admired for her integrity and fortitude. After retiring from Congress in 1983, Shirley Chisholm did not retreat from public life but rather shifted her focus towards more personal endeavors and community service. She spent her days involved in educational programs, advocating for voter education and women's leadership training. Her commitment to service remained undiminished, though she now operated away from the political spotlight. Shirley continued to inspire by lecturing at institutions across the country, imparting lessons from her political career to students and aspiring leaders. Her talks were rich with insight about the realities of political life, the need for integrity, and the importance of relentless advocacy. Her presence on campus was always met with admiration and respect. Even in retirement, Shirley's passion for politics and reform was evident. She frequented local council meetings and supported grassroots campaigns, offering her expertise and mentorship. Her involvement helped to energize and empower new voices within the community, ensuring that her legacy of activism continued to bear fruit. In her private writings from her later years, Shirley reflected on her legacy and the future of the movements she had helped shape. These writings reveal a woman who was thoughtful about her place in history and hopeful about the potential of future generations to continue the fight for justice and equality. The legacy of Shirley Chisholm is commemorated through numerous initiatives that bear her name. Scholarships for women in politics, annual lectures on social justice, and foundations dedicated to her causes continue to advance her work. These initiatives ensure that her commitment to change and progress is carried forward. Shirley Chisholm remains a towering figure in American political history, cited by many contemporary leaders as a foundational influence. Politicians, especially women and those from minority backgrounds, speak of her as a trailblazer who paved the way for their careers, echoing her calls for integrity and inclusivity in governance. Academics and scholars continue to study Shirley's speeches, strategies, and policies, analyzing her approach to politics and leadership. Conferences and seminars delve into her methods and message, drawing lessons that are applicable to both current and future political landscapes. Across the country, murals, statues, and public spaces named in honor of Shirley Chisholm celebrate her life and legacy. These tributes are not just commemorative but are also places of inspiration and reflection, where community members gather to honor her memory and draw strength from her example. Throughout her career and after, Shirley Chisholm received numerous accolades recognizing her trailblazing contributions to society and politics. These awards span from legislative honors to humanitarian awards, each underscoring her profound impact on national and international scales. Even after her retirement, prestigious institutions continued to acknowledge her work, solidifying her status as a pivotal figure in modern history. Each award Shirley received tells a story of recognition and respect from peers, activists, and global leaders. From the Congressional Gold Medal to honors bestowed by civil rights organizations, these tributes bear witness to the wide-ranging influence of her relentless advocacy for justice and equality. The individuals behind the campaigns to honor Shirley Chisholm speak passionately about her influence on their lives and work. These advocates, spanning generations and backgrounds, articulate how Shirley's legacy inspired them to push for her recognition, ensuring that her contributions are remembered and that her life continues to inspire future leaders. Beyond formal accolades, Shirley's true legacy is perhaps best reflected in the personal tributes from those she impacted. Letters from individuals and communities express heartfelt thanks, sharing personal stories of how Shirley's pioneering spirit and dedication to public service encouraged them to engage in civic activities and pursue greater equality. The Shirley Chisholm State Park in Brooklyn is a vibrant tribute to her legacy, providing a community space that embodies her commitment to accessibility and public service. This park is not only a recreational haven but also an educational resource, with programs and exhibits that inform visitors about Shirley's life and her contributions to social justice. Numerous schools across the United States bear Shirley Chisholm's name, each a beacon of her enduring influence in education. These institutions are committed to fostering the values she championed, from empowerment through education to the importance of community involvement and political engagement. Annual events held at institutions named after Shirley Chisholm serve as forums for ongoing dialogue about her core issues: civil rights, women's empowerment, and public service. These events keep her spirit alive, engaging new audiences and encouraging active citizenship in line with her ideals. Statues and public artworks dedicated to Shirley Chisholm capture her in poses of leadership and oration, immortalizing her as a figure of strength and inspiration. Each piece is not just a likeness but a symbol, encouraging all who pass by to reflect on her contributions and the continuing relevance of her work in today's society. Shirley Chisholm's historical impact is immense, marked by her trailblazing role as the first African American woman in Congress and her bold bid for the presidency. Her advocacy for education, women's rights, and social justice not only shifted the legislative landscape but also altered the course of American political discourse, challenging and changing perceptions about race and gender in leadership. The breadth of Shirley's impact can be traced through a timeline of legislative and social achievements that were directly influenced by her work. From early interventions in education reform to significant strides in civil rights, each milestone is a testament to her visionary approach to policymaking and her unwavering commitment to justice. Today's leaders across political and social spectrums cite Shirley as a foundational influence, drawing from her courage and strategic approach to activism. Her legacy is evident in the continued fight for equality and justice, as new generations of leaders build upon her work, using her life as a blueprint for change. Scholars and historians continue to study Shirley Chisholm's contributions, analyzing her strategies and effectiveness. Academic conferences and publications delve into her speeches and policies, exploring the profound complexity of her legacy and her role as a catalyst for change in the socio-political landscape. Shirley Chisholm's work continues to resonate in today's social and political movements. From marches for women's rights to campaigns against racial injustice, her spirit is invoked by those who carry her messages of fairness, equality, and unyielding perseverance into the current day's struggles. In educational settings, from high schools to universities, Shirley's life is studied as a crucial part of American history and political science curricula. Educators and students alike explore her strategies and speeches, drawing lessons from her resilience and her analytical approach to both politics and social advocacy. The legislative landscape continues to feel the impact of Shirley's work, with current policies on civil rights, education, and labor echoing her initiatives. Lawmakers reference her efforts in debates and discussions, using her achievements as benchmarks for current reform efforts. Community centers and online forums dedicated to Shirley's legacy provide spaces for dialogue and action, fostering community engagement and civic activism in her name. These platforms not only honor her memory but also promote active participation in democracy, encouraging individuals to contribute to societal progress as Shirley once did.